for me,
The
and
simpler, the better.
very simple, and then I get a little more complex.
Yeah,
Uh, so if you're ready, just let me know.
yeah. Whenever you want to start.
All right. What is your name?
My name is Dan Samuel.
All right. Where are you from, actually?
Originally, I'm from the former Soviet Union, Ukraine actually, but I immigrated to New York in 1987.
Oh wow.
88 actually. Yeah,
Oh, so before the Berlin Wall came down.
that's right.
All right. So what do you do for a living?
Uh, a lot of different things. For now, I'm a teacher in the New York City Department of Education.
Mhm.
I'm also a graduate student studying to be a mental health counselor. So I'm kind of transitioning from teaching into being a psychotherapist of sorts, all while juggling this singer-songwriter thing.
Wow, that's sounds a lot more complex than what I knew you when I knew you
Yeah,
back way back then.
always adding things to the plate.
Yeah. Sounds interesting, actually. The psychotherapist musician.
Well, that's where I write my songs, huh?
So, what made you go into music?
I picked up a guitar when I was about 15 years old, and I was hooked. I wanted, as soon as I just had it in my hands, I remember being 8 years old, playing with a 2-deck cassette player, pretending I was a DJ, changing the volume on Michael Jackson's Thriller album as if I was doing something to the song. And while I have no interest in production or being a producer, I remember that from the youngest age of being 8 years old, it was always something that was there, always. And of course, I wanted to learn guitar, so my parents got me a small little keyboard, which is the way things work out. So I didn't actually pick up the guitar until I was 15. But as far back as I remember, I loved music. And as far as going into it and deciding to do something with it, I made my decision in high school when I picked up a guitar and I realized that I needed this to be a part of my life. I didn't know what part of my life yet. I didn't know how much of a part of my life, but I knew that my life was forever changed as soon as I started playing guitar.
And you mentioned keyboard before. Can you, if you see a keyboard or maybe even a piano, can you can you sit there and bang out?
I could noodle, as we say. I could play a couple of things, but that's all from me learning in Five Towns College. I went to music school for a couple of years, and so everyone takes keyboard, everyone takes piano. So I know the theory, but no, I do not play piano.
Okay, so all right. Now, who were your musical influences when you were growing up?
Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, uh,
Michael Jackson
Metallica.
wasn't one of them.
Michael Jackson, absolutely. Michael Jackson. But I'm thinking about when I actually started playing music.
Okay.
Growing up, I loved Michael Jackson.
Mhm.
I loved dance music. I listened to things like, I have two older sisters, so I listened to things like Real McCoy, La Bouche, all of that 90s dance music and the 80s dance music that we all secretly, shamefully love. But as far as influencing me, when I was in high school, it was Nirvana, Foo Fighters, Duncan Sheik, Tonic, and the Gin Blossoms. And everything they did, and Spin Doctors, and everything they did, they could do no wrong. There wasn't a piece of music, including Metallica, there wasn't a piece of music that was out there uh, that they could do wrong by me. I loved every single bit of it, and I wanted to learn as much as possible.
It's a pretty eclectic piece of catalogs that you have there.
Yeah, well, I think my musical style is very eclectic.
Your EP, I'm gonna get to that later. I'm gonna get to your EP later. But for now, what do you have? What are you listening to right now? What?
I'm kind of stuck in the '90s, so on my playlist, I've got a lot of Gin Blossoms, Tonic, Duncan Sheik, everything I just mentioned.
Mm,
But I have been listening also to, some new stuff, a little bit of Imagine Dragons. But it all depends on my mood. It depends on what's going on. Tonic seems to always do it. Gin Blossoms, Nirvana never gets old. Metallica never gets old. So I'm kind of like stuck in a loop. Like it's 1994, and the radio station is on.
And just keep playing all the hits and all the classics here.
That's right.
Do you listen to music just for the words of it, or sometimes is it just for the production of the song?
Again, it also depends. I have a playlist that I call Run,
Mm-hmm.
songs that amp me up, and it's very eclectic also because in that playlist you've got Eminem, you've got Nicki Minaj, and you've got Metallica. So like different songs, the way that they're produced, the way that they end up coming together when it's a finished product, a bass line could just pump you up. A drum beat can just pump you up. It could be the lyrical content. It could be a hook. So, again, I listen to it for the same reason why some people go to yoga,
Mm-hmm.
why some people exercise, why some people study martial arts. Sometimes it's more artistry, and sometimes it's more of a, driving force, background, the background music to my life.
All right. So, you write your own music. So, what is the process that you go through to get through one song, to write a song?
Well, a point. You see the guitar over there?
Yes.
There's typically a guitar on a couch next to me somewhere. It never gets hung up. Like it's always within reach because I think I have ADHD, and I sit down and I say I want to write a song, and I get an idea, and 3 hours later nothing comes of it. And then there are other times, like 2 days ago, I wrote a song. I wrote a song in about 8.5 minutes. I picked up the guitar. I just started noodling around. Something kicked in. I started humming something, and then a line came to me. And I sung that line, and I sung the next line, and then I just sang those 2 lines over and over so I can get the melody in my head. And then I picked up my journal, and I started writing. And the journal's on the coffee table in front of me. And I started writing. And before I knew it, I had the first verse. And then I did the second verse. And then I thought I was going to get stuck because I didn't have any idea for a chorus. So I played the first verse and the second verse, and I did that a few times, and my hands just kind of naturally went to a place where that ended up being the chorus. So it's very much of I could have a 3-day span where I write 4 or 5 songs, and I could have a 6-month span where I write a couple of licks, but nothing new, nothing of substance.
So for each song, it's the same, almost the same exact process, where you're just on the guitar playing with something, or does a line come to you late at night and you have to write something around the line?
Sometimes I'll drop everything I'm doing because I hear a melody. And I'll figure out the melody in my head, and the melody just sometimes falls into the right chords, and it's just there, and I've got to sit down and capture it. I typically record it on the iPhone, on a voice memo, try to come back to it later. I write chord diagrams. I have a writing partner for some songs. My best friend in the world, he plays drums for me. He was the best man at my wedding. But 2 of the tracks on my EP are co-written by him, he and I. And he and I just kind of have this chemistry where I just kind of start playing, and maybe he has a couple of lines, and we just kind of go from there. But it's very much of I'm not one of those people who could sit for 6.5 hours tinkering on one song. For me, writing is very much of I need a burst. I need something to happen. And then I can kind of push myself and try to see if I can squeeze any more out of it. But I can't just sit down and say, okay, I'm going to write a song now. I mean, Jerome Kern wrote 1 song for every day of the year, and he said that out of that 365, he was happy if he had 1 good song. Or if it was 10 good songs. I don't remember the number. But there are people out there that just write and write and write, and for me, I can't bring myself to just sit when it's being forced. I have ideas. I know what stories I want to tell, and sometimes I'll use that. and I won't let myself continue writing a song if it's convenient, but it's not the story I want to tell. I'll leave the song alone because telling the story right now at my point in writing and evolution is more important than just writing the song.
All right. Oh, well, you're an English teacher. Do you find it that your process of writing would be is easier than most, since you have that poetic kind of style?
I definitely think that language, it's actually, I think, makes it a little more difficult because I have a vocabulary. It's not necessarily that much deeper than the average person. Maybe it is. But I have a very, very well-read and well-rounded vocabulary. That doesn't always equal into good songs.
Mm.
Sometimes it's better to just say it simply. To say, you know, to have a line read, "I've never been so sad," might be better than "I've never felt more melancholy than." It's just something. You're the one listening to it. When we're listening, do we really want to have to stop and look up words because we don't know what they mean? Sometimes simpler is better. So in a way, I think the language and having that kind of is an obstacle sometimes because I have to choose to say it simpler or more simply.
And a lot more, because most mainstream music is just cut and dry anyway. It's just I am gonna have relations with that woman. And it's not like back in the '70s, like, girl, let me hold your hand.
Well, and you said we'll get to the EP a little bit later, but that's part of it also. This putting together an album, choosing what songs go, what order they come up in, the way a person experiences it if they're going to listen to it from beginning to end, that in itself is telling a story. So, yeah, I definitely want a little bit of mystery to the music. I want a little bit of allure. I want people to think. My favorite moments with the writing is when people hear it and they come up to me and they ask me about a line. They're like, that's what you meant here, right? And I say, okay. Because I truly, this is the English teacher in me. I wrote it. It's dead. I'm dead now. I don't exist. Take from it what you want. If it's a time when you're listening to a track and it's giving you inspiration, great. And that's how you're reading it, fine. If it's a time when you're sad and you're connecting with it because it seems bleak and hopeless, fine. If it's the same line, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to say what I meant. I know the kind of story I want to tell, but there is something to the poetry of music. People have to experience it for themselves.
Yeah, it's all what the listener perceives on what they hear.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, now we come to it. So, how did it come? How did you come about bringing together the EP? Following
well, I got into teaching to support my wife through her doctoral education. And that was a 5-year program. And over the course of those 5 years, I never stopped writing. So when she was done, and that was 5 years of trials and tribulations. And during those 5 years, I was writing about the past, painful experiences from the past, growing, learning experiences, growing pains, things, just life in general. And I came to a collection of about, I'd say, 15 or 16, maybe 20 songs. And they were there, but it didn't really matter because I was teaching. And as long as I knew my wife was in school, I had to keep teaching. Once she was graduating, I sat down with Christopher Frasco at the Brooklyn Out Board. Chris Frasco is a Berklee School of Music graduate. He's one of the most brilliant musicians I've ever met in my entire life. I got connected with him through my friend John, who co-wrote some of the songs. And I sat down and I played for him all 20 songs, just in a row, right in front of him. I just picked up my guitar, my hand was ready to fall off.